if the things you throw away could transform your garden into something unforgettable? Welcome to Verdant Dreams, where today we explore DIY trash garden ideas, turning waste into borders, edging, and decor that brighten even the tiniest yard or patio. This video comes with timestamps, so you can jump straight to the ideas that inspire you most. If you have questions, drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And if these ideas spark your imagination, take them, shape them, and create with what you already have at home. Maybe to you, I'm just another face on a screen. But behind this content lives a real story, and a real family. This isn't just another video, it's a piece of my heart. Every like, every comment, every subscribe keeps this dream alive. When you choose to support, you're giving hope, not just to a creator, but to a small family building something with love. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeing me. There is something magical in the way discarded bottles can be reborn into colorful edges that frame a garden with warmth and charm. Imagine stepping into a tiny yard where the soil breathes with life, and at your feet, rows of painted bottles rise gently from the ground like a playful necklace encircling the flowers. Each bottle, once forgotten and considered trash, now carries a coat of vibrant color, soft pastels in one corner, bold autumn tones in another, and even a cheerful rainbow for those who adore a burst of joy in small spaces. The border does more than separate paths from beds, it creates rhythm. Against a backdrop of chrysanthemums swaying in the breeze, marigolds glowing like little suns, and asters whispering in shades of violet, the bottles stand like a loyal chorus, echoing the hues of the flowers themselves. The edging draws the eye downwards, reminding visitors that beauty often begins close to the earth. Placed along a narrow patio or circling the base of a rustic pergola, the bottles offer both function and artistry. They prevent soil from spilling onto paths, yet their painted skins turn the mundane into something poetic. Children might walk along the line, tracing the rainbow, while adults pause to admire how something so ordinary has been transformed into a design that feels both thrifty and elegant. When the soft afternoon light rests on the glass, tiny reflections sparkle, mingling with the leaves of ivy climbing the pergola and the delicate petals of Japanese anemones. In the quiet of an English cottage-inspired backyard, the painted bottles whisper a reminder: sustainability does not need to be dull. With a brush of color and a gardener's care, even trash can sing with beauty. Bottle blossom edging is more than a DIY project. It is a celebration of second chances, where junk becomes treasure, and small gardens glow with an artistry that feels deeply personal. It invites everyone, whether in a suburban backyard in the United States, a rustic patio in the UK, or a cozy front yard in New Zealand, to see their outdoor space as a canvas waiting to bloom. The garden path is more than just a way to walk. It is a journey that tells a story, step by step. With stone mosaic garden path, the edges of each walkway come alive, painted stones offering both rhythm and poetry to the landscape. These stones, once lying unnoticed by riversides or hidden in corners of construction waste, are given a new role, becoming guardians of flowers, guiding footsteps, and weaving color into the soil. Imagine a backyard where chrysanthemums glow golden at the edges of the afternoon, asters rise like soft purple stars, and marigolds dance like little flames. The painted stones sit at their feet, some in rustic terracotta, others in pastel blues and greens, arranged as if a mosaic artist had kissed the earth with pattern and order. The edges are not sharp or harsh but gentle, curving in playful shapes that echo the natural lines of the garden. The path invites you forward, through arches of a rustic pergola or towards the shadow of a bamboo fence. Each step feels deliberate, as though the stones themselves whisper, walk slowly, breathe deeply, notice the details. The borders not only keep soil contained but also spark joy, their colors reflecting the flowers around them like a mirror in stone form. In a tiny yard, these painted mosaics add depth, turning narrow spaces into places of wonder. In a farmhouse setting, the chunky stones create grounding, reminding visitors of Earth's strength while still celebrating color. Around a gazebo, they set a stage for gatherings, each stone glowing faintly as the daylight fades into soft evening. There is artistry in the humble. To paint a stone is to acknowledge its presence, to see value where others see nothing. And in that act, the garden path becomes something more than practical. It becomes personal, a story etched in both rock and color. Stone mosaic garden path whispers a promise. that every step taken in the garden can be framed by beauty, thrift, and imagination. It is a call to turn the ordinary into the extraordinary, whether in the tiny patios of urban homes in Canada or the wide rustic backyards of Australia. There is a quiet poetry in the broken clay jug. Once used to hold water, to quench thirst, or to store oil, the jug carries with it a history of usefulness and simplicity. When it cracks or loses its strength, it is often discarded as trash. Yet in the garden, even a fractured jug can return to life, not as a vessel of water, but as a vessel of flowers. Imagine a border where each jug leans slightly to the side, as if whispering its secrets to the soil. From their mouths spill cascades of marigolds glowing like golden lanterns, asters shimmering in violet hues, and chrysanthemums opening with quiet dignity. The cracks and chips are no longer flaws but frames through which blossoms escape, turning imperfection into art. In tiny yards, these clay jugs create borders that feel both whimsical and thrifty. They trace the edges of a patio or line a narrow garden bed, each painted in rustic whites or cheerful pastels, reminding us that sustainability is not only about reusing but also about celebrating beauty in the old and imperfect. Against a farmhouse fence, the jugs echo tradition, grounding the garden with a sense of history. As autumn arrives, the palette deepens. Broken jugs painted in bold reds and greens rest beside sedum autumn joy, their textures mingling like an artist's brush on canvas. Near a pergola, ivy tumbles from tilted mouths, the greenery embracing the clay as if reclaiming it. The edging does not stand still, it breathes, it grows, it evolves with the seasons. This transformation is not about disguise but revelation. The jug, even broken, retains its shape and dignity. By filling it with life, the gardener honors both its past and its present. Visitors walking by such a border may pause, not because the jugs are perfect, but because they tell a story of resilience, creativity, and the joy of second chances. Upcycled clay jug planters remind us that in the garden, nothing is wasted. Everything can bloom again. Whether in a front yard in England, a backyard in the United States, or a rustic patio in Australia, the humble jug becomes a frame for beauty, a testament to the art of renewal. a small garden often lies in the cleverness of its details. When space is limited, every inch matters, and every object holds potential. From what was once considered plain and unremarkable, PVC pipes used in construction and plumbing, new life emerges. Transformed with paint and flowers, they rise like gentle columns, carrying color upwards, guiding the eye from soil to sky. In a backyard patio, pipes of varying heights stand side by side, painted in bold autumn tones that echo the warmth of marigolds and asters blooming above. Their arrangement is playful, yet orderly, like a chorus singing in harmony. They do not simply mark the border, they lift it, bringing vertical rhythm to an otherwise flat garden edge. Elsewhere, in the calm of a tiny yard, pipes painted in pastel blues and mint greens form gentle clusters around beds of Japanese anemones. Each pipe becomes a miniature tower, filled with sedum autumn joy that cascades softly from the top. The sunlight catches on the glossy paint, and the blooms appear as crowns, giving the border a whimsical dignity. Near a gazebo in a farmhouse garden, the pipes are painted in white and terracotta, their simple tones balancing tradition with creativity. From their mouths, chrysanthemums spill like streams of golden light, blending into asters at the base. It is as though the garden itself has found a way to weave verticality into its story, layering height, texture, and color in one seamless gesture. PVC pipe flower columns prove that upcycling is not about hiding the past but about reshaping it. A pipe, once part of a system hidden underground, now stands proudly in the open, painted and purposeful. Its role has changed, yet its strength remains. Visitors walking through such a garden may pause, surprised at how familiar materials can feel new when placed among flowers. These borders are not only thrifty but also deeply artistic. They remind us that the garden is a canvas, and every object, whether clay, stone, bottle, or pipe, can contribute to the picture. In small spaces, they maximize beauty. In larger backyards, they add rhythm and play. Everywhere, they speak of creativity and the joy of turning the ordinary into extraordinary. There is a unique magic in the way sunlight touches glass. A simple bottle, once discarded, becomes a prism, splitting light into soft colors that dance across a garden. Rustic bottle fence decor embraces this magic, transforming ordinary fences into glowing walls of art, where trash turns into treasure with a touch of imagination. Imagine stepping into a backyard where the fence no longer feels like a barrier, but like a canvas. Along the posts, emerald, cobalt, and amber bottles stand upright, their surfaces catching the afternoon sun. Light scatters like jewels across the soil, falling gently onto marigolds and asters swaying beneath. The border glows not from electricity but from nature's own hand-painted rays. In a tiny front yard, pastel-painted plastic bottles create a softer charm. Against a white wooden picket fence, pink and lavender tones echo the blooms of chrysanthemums and Japanese anemones below. What once might have looked like trash now feels whimsical, as though the fence has borrowed colors from the flowers themselves. Visitors walking by cannot help but pause, drawn to the unexpected playfulness of color and glass. At a farmhouse, the approach becomes more rustic, more grounded. Bottles are strung horizontally like beads across a tall wooden fence, catching the fading glow of sunset. Below, sedum autumn joy stretches upward, its blooms mingling with asters, completing a picture that feels timeless yet thrifty. A bamboo chair placed nearby offers the perfect spot to sit, watch, and let the soft hues of glass and flowers mingle with the fading sky. The beauty of rustic bottle fence decor lies in its ability to surprise. It does not demand perfection. Bottles may vary in size, shape, or color, but in that variety lies its charm. What once rolled forgotten in corners of kitchens or recycling bins now tells a story of resilience and creativity. Every garden fence becomes a stage. With bottles as actors, flowers as chorus, and sunlight as spotlight, the performance is endless, changing each hour of the day. This is not simply decoration. It is a celebration of resourcefulness, a reminder that beauty often lives in what we overlook. Rustic bottle fence decor whispers gently, in gardens, even trash can glow like treasure, if only we dare to imagine. There is beauty in contrast, in the meeting of the rough with the delicate. Junk metal painted borders embody this dance, turning what was once sharp, heavy, and discarded into something playful and protective for the garden. Rust is erased by color, jagged edges softened by blooms, and the forgotten scraps of yesterday become frames for life today. Picture a backyard where marigolds glow like golden sparks and chrysanthemums open in radiant bursts. Around them, Pieces of old rods, gears, and flat panels rise from the soil, painted in bold turquoise and orange. What once felt industrial now feels festive, the metal catching light and reflecting it back in cheerful tones. The flowers no longer spill wildly, they are guided, embraced, and celebrated by the border that surrounds them. In a tiny garden, the story softens. Curved metal scraps, once perhaps part of machinery, are painted in pastels, lavender, mint, baby blue, transforming their hardness into charm. Alongside asters and Japanese anemones, the edging becomes a gentle rhythm, the contrast between bloom and border creating a harmony that feels both rustic and whimsical. The bamboo fence in the background whispers of tradition, grounding the playful color in natural simplicity. At a farmhouse patio, junk metal strips stand side by side, painted in autumn shades of red, yellow, and rustic brown. They echo the season, blending with sedum autumn joy blooming at their base. The metal does not dominate, it frames. Sunlight glides over its painted surface, warming it, allowing it to shine with dignity rather than decay. Junk metal painted borders tell a deeper story, that even the harshest materials can be softened with intention. Metal, cold and industrial by nature, finds new purpose when it meets color and garden soil. Instead of rusting away unseen, it becomes a partner to petals, a protector of roots, a silent artist in the garden's canvas. Visitors may pause, surprised by the transformation. They may run their fingers along the painted surface, marvel at the colors, and smile at the creativity. In that moment, they see not metal, not junk, but beauty reborn. This is the essence of upcycling, turning waste into wonder, letting contrast become harmony, and proving that even in the smallest spaces, imagination has no boundaries. Not every garden is by the sea, yet every garden can borrow the calm of the waves, the shimmer of shells, and the soft embrace of ocean colors. Tiny patio seascape planters bring the essence of the coast into even the smallest backyard or front yard, turning ordinary recycled items into vessels of salt-kissed charm. Picture a patio edged with painted bottles and jugs, their colors whispering of tide pools and sandy shores. Turquoise, seafoam green, and sandy beige catch the light, echoing the hues of the sea. From their mouths bloom marigolds like golden suns and asters like deep violet shells, while Japanese anemones sway like sea flowers rising from the tide. The soil sparkles with seashells tucked here and there, playful reminders of the shore. In a small front yard, the seascape expands. PVC pipes and bottles stand painted in ocean blues and whites, curved into soft borders around chrysanthemums and sedum autumn joy. A bamboo fence in the background feels like driftwood worn smooth by waves, while an actual piece of driftwood leans nearby as if the sea itself had delivered it to the garden. The effect is both rustic and serene, thrifty materials reborn as seaside art. Under a pergola, pastel bottles and jugs painted coral pink, pearl white, and aqua hold blooms spilling over their edges. A chair rests nearby, waiting for someone to sit, to breathe, and to imagine the distant sound of waves. Though the garden may be far from the ocean, the feeling is close, the freshness of air, the shimmer of light, the colors of shells and water blending with flowers in bloom. Tiny patio seascape planters remind us that beauty is not bound by geography. You need not live by the shore to feel its calm. By choosing colors and shapes inspired by the sea, by reusing what was once trash, you can create your own tide pools of joy right outside your door. It is more than decoration, it is a dream brought into daily life. Every time the sun touches glass or flowers bloom in painted jugs, the garden breathes with seaside poetry. And in that moment, even a small patio becomes as infinite as the horizon. In the language of gardens, stones speak of permanence. They are steady, grounding, and timeless, yet when painted or arranged with care, they also whisper of beauty and artistry. Farmhouse stone borders celebrate this duality, weaving strength and color into the very edges of a garden. Imagine stepping into a rustic backyard where chunky stones, whitewashed with simple charm, frame beds of marigolds and chrysanthemums glowing like lanterns in autumn light. The stones, once scattered and ordinary, now stand in harmony, their pale tones echoing the farmhouse pergola covered in ivy above. The border does not shout. It steadies, giving the flowers a stage where their brilliance shines brighter against the calm foundation. In a small front yard, river stones softened by time are painted in pastels, mint, lavender, sky blue. They form a curved edging around Japanese anemones and sedum autumn joy, their colors blending with petals and leaves like watercolor strokes. A wooden fence stands behind, rustic and welcoming, with a farmhouse porch in the distance where rocking chairs wait. The effect is gentle, as if the stones themselves were smiling at the blooms they protect. Elsewhere, in a tiny corner by a gazebo, stones painted in terracotta and beige guide a narrow path. Chrysanthemums spill joyfully over them, asters weave purple at their feet, and the warm earth tones echo the season. A bamboo chair invites pause, to sit and notice how even the smallest detail, the color of stone, can change the mood of a garden. Farmhouse stone borders are not only about containment, they are about connection. They anchor the garden to the earth, reminding visitors that beauty grows best when supported by strength. At the same time, the painted surfaces transform the ordinary into extraordinary, balancing rustic durability with playful artistry. Every stone tells a story. Some were once part of walls, others found by riversides. Now, in the garden, they serve again, not as barriers, but as frames of celebration. They invite visitors to slow down, to trace the path with their eyes, and to feel the calm of a farmhouse garden that honors both tradition and creativity. In every season, painted stone borders endure. They are thrifty, rustic, and timeless, grounding the garden in strength while lifting it in color. Reminders that even the simplest materials, when touched with care, can create poetry in the soil. There is something timeless about a lantern's glow, the way it softens edges, warms shadows, and transforms ordinary spaces into places of wonder. Gazebo bottle lanterns capture this magic by turning discarded bottles into vessels of light, edging the gazebo with a gentle radiance that speaks of both thrift and beauty. Picture a backyard where a wooden gazebo rises among chrysanthemums and asters. Around its borders, glass bottles stand upright, painted in amber, crimson, and gold. Within each one, a tea light flickers, sending sparks of warmth across petals and leaves. The border glows not with electricity but with imagination, proving that even trash can cradle light. In a tiny yard, the story feels more playful. Along the edge of a small gazebo, pastel-painted bottles hang like ornaments, pink, mint, lavender. Beneath them, Japanese anemones and sedum autumn joy sway in the breeze. As the evening deepens, the bottles glow faintly, their soft colors mingling with petals, turning the corner into a cottage dreamscape. Ivy climbs the posts, blurring the line between built and grown, crafted and natural. At a farmhouse patio, the glow takes on a welcoming strength. Turquoise and pearl-painted bottles form neat borders, each filled with a simple LED light. Marigolds bloom golden beside them, asters rise in purple, and rustic bamboo chairs rest beneath the gazebo, waiting for laughter and quiet conversations. The light is practical, but more than that, it is poetic. Gazebo bottle lanterns remind us that gardens are not only for the day. With a touch of creativity, they bloom at night too. The bottles, once empty and cast aside, find purpose in cradling flame or light, guiding footsteps, and creating mood. They are simple, yet their effect is extraordinary, turning gatherings into memories, and silence into serenity. This is the art of upcycling at its most enchanting. It is not about hiding the past life of the bottle but about illuminating it, literally. Each border, each glow, whispers that beauty is not purchased but created, and that the heart of a garden lies not in perfection but in imagination. Gazebo bottle lanterns are more than decor. They are invitations to linger, to dream, to see light where once there was only waste. The harmony of garden design often lies in the balance between nature and craft. Bamboo and bottle mix borders capture this perfectly, weaving the organic rhythm of bamboo with the playful color of painted bottles. It is a border that feels both rustic and artistic, thrifty yet timeless. Picture a backyard where green and blue glass bottles alternate with bamboo sticks rising upright from the soil. The edging looks like music frozen in place, its rhythm echoing the swaying of marigolds and asters just behind. Above, a pergola draped in ivy shelters the path, making the whole space feel like a hidden cottage garden tucked away from the world. In a farmhouse front yard, the palette softens. Bamboo poles cut short are paired with pastel-painted bottles, pink, mint, cream. Together, they curve around chrysanthemums and sedum autumn joy, echoing the softness of their petals. Behind, a white picket fence rises, grounding the whimsy in tradition. The border does not merely separate soil from path, it paints a line of joy across the garden. Elsewhere, a rustic patio embraces warmth. Bamboo in its natural golden hue meets bottles painted amber and turquoise, together forming a frame for Japanese anemones spilling gently over the edge. A wooden gazebo stands nearby, bamboo chairs waiting for someone to sit and admire the scene. The border feels both structured and wild, a collaboration between human hands and the earth's materials. Bamboo and bottle mix borders speak of sustainability without words. Bamboo grows quickly, replenishing itself with ease, while bottles, once discarded, live again with new purpose. Together, They remind us that design need not be expensive or complicated. It can be born from simple materials found close at hand. Visitors pause at such borders not because they are grand, but because they are unexpected. The rough texture of bamboo beside the smooth gleam of painted glass feels natural yet surprising, rustic yet modern. The flowers above glow brighter because of the contrast below. In gardens both small and large, these mixed borders bring character. They invite the eye to follow their rhythm, invite the soul to rest, and whisper that beauty can always be found when we let different worlds, natural and crafted, bamboo and bottle, meet in harmony. In every garden, water is a whisper of life, a sound that calms, a movement that soothes. Japanese garden PVC water spouts bring this timeless element into small spaces by transforming the most humble of materials, PVC pipes, into fountains that echo the serenity of bamboo. What was once buried underground in silence now rises above the soil, painted, reshaped, and given a new voice. Imagine a quiet backyard where chrysanthemums bloom like soft lanterns and asters sway in gentle purple hues. Amid them, a painted pipe, green as bamboo, leans gracefully into a stone basin. A trickle of water falls, rhythmic and clear, its song mingling with the rustle of leaves. The border is not just edging, it is atmosphere, an invitation to linger. In a tiny patio garden, PVC pipes stand in earthy shades of sage and beige, arranged neatly as edging around a water feature. Sedum autumn joy blooms nearby, their colors glowing against the soft hum of water. Above, a pergola lets sunlight filter through in dappled patches, the play of light and sound creating a meditative retreat in even the smallest yard. At a farmhouse, the inspiration grows bolder. Painted pipes crafted into bamboo fountains trickle gently along a path lined with marigolds and asters. A stone lantern rests beside the spout, adding authenticity, while the golden-green paint blends seamlessly with the season's warmth. The air feels timeless here, as though tradition has settled comfortably into modern hands. These spouts are more than decoration. They are proof that upcycling does not only create borders of color but borders of sound and presence. PVC, often hidden and forgotten, finds beauty when brought into light, painted to mimic bamboo's grace. The transformation is not disguise but reinvention, a meeting of practicality and poetry. Visitors pause here not to marvel at the pipes themselves but at what they create, a corner of peace, a breath of calm, a garden that feels alive with more than blooms. Japanese garden PVC water spouts remind us that serenity can be crafted from the simplest of materials. With paint, imagination, and water, even a scrap of plastic becomes a source of renewal. It is a lesson the garden whispers back to us. Harmony begins where creativity meets care. Not all borders must be grand to be enchanting. Sometimes, it is the smallest details that capture the heart. Cutest mini jug borders prove this truth, turning humble little jugs into frames of charm and color that light up even the tiniest garden corners. Imagine a front yard edged with rows of miniature clay jugs, each painted in pastel hues of pink, blue, and yellow. They sit like cheerful children holding hands, guiding the line between path and soil. Behind them, marigolds shine golden, asters bloom purple, and chrysanthemums rise like soft lanterns. Against a white picket fence, the scene becomes a picture of cottage simplicity, thrifty, sweet, and irresistible. In the backyard, the palette deepens. Tiny jugs, painted in autumn tones of orange, green, and golden brown, are set among Japanese anemones and sedum autumn joy. Their earthy colors echo the season, grounding the garden in warmth. A farmhouse pergola rises behind, its beams softened by ivy. Here, the jugs do not just frame flowers, they echo the rhythm of the seasons themselves. On a small patio, the story turns playful. Mini jugs painted in rainbow hues tilt slightly forward, as though pouring ivy and blossoms into the soil. The border feels alive, whimsical, almost like a toy come to life. A rustic gazebo and bamboo chair nearby invite visitors to sit, smile, and enjoy the colorful dance at their feet. What makes these borders magical is not size but personality. Each jug, small enough to hold in one hand, holds a piece of creativity. Their painted surfaces shine in sunlight, their tiny mouths cradle blooms or ivy, and their collective arrangement creates order with a sense of joy. They remind us that gardens are not only about grandeur but about delight, the kind that makes both children and adults pause with wonder. Cutest mini jug borders speak of thrift and artistry. They are easy to craft, yet the impression they leave lingers. They whisper that beauty can be playful, that even trash or broken pieces can be reborn into something irresistible. Whether framing a path in New Zealand, brightening a patio in Canada, or adding rustic flair to a UK farmhouse, these borders turn small spaces into places of lasting charm. There is something deeply grounding about stones. They hold the memory of rivers, mountains, and time itself. Yet when painted and stacked with care, they take on new life, rising as towers that bring rhythm and playfulness into the garden. Thrifty backyard stone towers are born from this balance, practical, rustic, and full of artistic charm. In one backyard, sturdy stones stand tall in soft whites and terracotta, stacked like little guardians beside marigolds and chrysanthemums. Their presence feels steady, as though they anchor not only the flowers but the entire garden. Above them, a pergola heavy with ivy leans gracefully, completing the rustic farmhouse scene. The towers are not tall enough to dominate, but just high enough to catch the eye and guide the path. Elsewhere, a small patio turns whimsical. Smooth river stones painted in mint, lavender, and pale yellow are stacked carefully, their pastel tones echoing the blossoms of asters and sedum autumn joy. The bamboo fence behind them adds rustic warmth, while the playful towers suggest something almost magical, like stepping stones of color leading into a secret garden. In a farmhouse setting, the tones shift to autumn. Chunky stones painted orange, yellow, and green are stacked with deliberate balance beside Japanese anemones. Each tower feels both raw and refined, its rugged texture softened by the blooms at its feet. A wooden gazebo nearby casts a warm shadow, inviting visitors to sit, rest, and admire the harmony between stone and flower. These towers are not about grandeur, they are about presence. Each painted rock, once discarded or overlooked, becomes part of a whole greater than itself. Together, they form edges that guide and borders that decorate, proving that even the simplest materials can tell stories when arranged with care. Thrifty backyard stone towers celebrate patience. To stack stones is to trust balance, to test weight, to listen to the quiet voice of nature. Visitors drawn to them feel not only their color but also their stillness. They are borders, yes, but also sculptures, symbols of thrift transformed into art. In every backyard, whether large or small, these stone towers remind us, stability and creativity walk hand in hand, and beauty is always found where strength meets imagination. Fences often divide, but in the garden they can also delight. Rustic junk art fence takes what was once cast aside, scrap metal, broken bottles, forgotten tools, and reimagines them as a canvas of creativity. Painted in bold colors or soft pastels, these junk pieces become ornaments that transform a plain fence into a gallery of imagination. Picture a backyard where marigolds and chrysanthemums sway beneath a fence studded with painted bottle bottoms glowing like stained glass. Old gears, once part of machines, are painted in turquoise and yellow, their shapes becoming whimsical flowers upon wood. The fence does not hide, it shines, a patchwork of history and artistry standing tall above the blooms. In a small front yard, the tone turns playful. A picket fence, simple and white, is dressed with pastel-painted scraps, bottle caps in pink, mint, and lavender, bits of curved pipe softened with color, metal fragments arranged like butterflies. At the base, asters and sedum autumn joy climb upward, their blooms blending with the painted junk until fence and flower seem to grow together. The effect is charming, like a page torn from a fairy tale sketchbook. At a farmhouse, the scene feels bold. A tall wooden fence becomes a rustic mural, where colorful utensils and glass shards are fastened in creative patterns. Chrysanthemums bloom richly at the base, their colors echoing the painted metal above. From a distance, the fence looks almost like folk art, vibrant, thrifty, and deeply personal. Visitors approach not just to admire the flowers, but to trace the stories hidden in each piece of junk reborn. Rustic junk art fence is more than decoration, it is dialogue. It asks, what can beauty be, if not this? A broken tool, once forgotten, now carries paint and pride. A bottle bottom, once trash, glows like a jewel when kissed by sunlight. The fence does not erase the past, it honors it, weaving memories into design. This border between spaces becomes a stage for both nature and imagination. Flowers soften the rough edges, while junk art sparks curiosity. It is rustic, thrifty, and endlessly unique, proof that fences need not only mark boundaries, they can also open minds. Rustic junk art fence whispers that creativity blooms brightest when we let nothing go to waste. When autumn arrives, the garden shifts its song. The air cools, the light softens, and colors deepen into hues that speak of warmth and harvest. Autumn glow bottle borders capture this fleeting season, turning recycled bottles into edges that shine with the essence of fall. Imagine walking into a backyard where chrysanthemums blaze golden, asters shimmer violet, and marigolds flicker like tiny suns. Along the soil, bottles painted in orange, burgundy, and green form a curved border that mirrors the richness above. As the evening light falls, the glass glows, catching fire in the sunset. The border feels alive, breathing with the season. On a tiny patio, the palette is gentler. Pastel bottles painted in muted shades of pumpkin and faded gold stand as edging around Japanese anemones and sedum autumn joy. Their subtle glow harmonizes with petals that nod in the crisp air. A pergola, dressed in ivy, casts dappled shadows, turning the space into a retreat where fall feels tender and close. At a farmhouse, the story unfolds warmly. Amber and crimson bottles line the front yard, their glow echoing marigolds spilling joyfully nearby. A wooden bench invites someone to sit, to pause, to let the season settle into their heart. In the distance, a gazebo rises, rustic and steady, watching over the garden as though holding its memory. Autumn glow bottle borders are not simply decoration, they are memory keepers. Each bottle, once discarded, now painted in autumn tones, becomes a vessel of light and color. They frame the garden with rhythm, guiding the eyes and grounding the blooms. Their glow is not only visual, it is emotional, reminding us of harvest tables, cozy evenings, and the quiet beauty of change. What makes these borders magical is the way they blend thrift and artistry. Bottles that once carried drinks or oils now carry seasons, reborn with brushes of paint and a gardener's vision. They prove that even in small gardens, even in tiny yards, the richness of autumn can be celebrated fully. Visitors may pause here, not to marvel at the bottles themselves, but to feel the warmth they create. In the fading light, as shadows grow longer, the borders whisper of gratitude, of beauty found in endings, and of hope for what blooms again.